When we think about the world's biggest environmental problems, climate change, pollution, all of it, we usually picture things like factory smokestacks or big oil spills. But what if one of the biggest drivers is something we all deal with every single day? Let's talk about the real planetary price of the food on your plate. So, get this. A huge report from the EAT-Lancet Commission, which is a group of top global scientists, came out with some pretty shocking news. Our planet has already blown past 5 of its 6 major environmental safety limits. We're officially in the danger zone. And what's pushing us over the edge? Well, you're looking at it. It's the global food system. Yep, that's right. What we eat, how we grow it, and how it gets to us is right at the heart of this entire planetary emergency. So, how in the world is our food system doing all this? The connections here are way deeper than you might think. Think about this number for a second. 30%. That is the slice of all worldwide greenhouse gas emissions that our food systems are responsible for. To put that into perspective, that puts agriculture in the same league as the entire industrial or transportation sectors. It's massive.
All right, so let's break this down a bit more. What are the actual ingredients of this crisis? Because it's not just one thing. It's a really complex mix of stuff.
And the impact is definitely not spread out evenly. On one side, you have animal-based foods. They're the #1 source of greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. But then, on the other side, you've got our massive grain production. And that's what's guzzling most of the water and dumping chemical fertilizers, like nitrogen and phosphorus, into our rivers. And this really shows you the scale of that pollution problem. Because we overuse fertilizers so much, our farms are leaving behind a global nitrogen surplus that is more than double the safe limit for the planet. All that extra nitrogen just washes into our rivers and oceans, poisoning the water and creating these huge aquatic dead zones. Okay, so you're probably thinking the answer's obvious, right? Just get more efficient, grow more food with less stuff. But, well, it's not quite that simple. There's this thing called the efficiency paradox. It's kind of like this. Imagine you get a car with amazing gas mileage. But if that just makes you feel like you can drive twice as much, you've completely wiped out any of the environmental savings. It's the same thing in agriculture. If we boost productivity, but it just leads to way more overall production without any limits, the total damage can actually get worse. To see how all these challenges actually play out in the real world, let's zoom in on a specific case study, India. So in India, government policy has created a system with some pretty big unintended side effects. You've got programs that push farmers to grow huge amounts of water-hungry cereals instead of more diverse crops. Then you have these open-ended subsidies for pumping groundwater, which just encourages totally unsustainable water use. And all of this is happening in a market that's dominated by just a few big companies, with weak protections for both the farm workers and the environment itself. And of course, we absolutely cannot ignore the human element here. What we choose to eat is deeply personal. It's tied up in our culture, our religion, our daily lives. You can't just tell people to change what they eat and expect it to work. That's not a realistic or a just solution. And that brings us to the most crucial point of all. A just transition for our food system has to mean finding a way to get healthier, more diverse, and sustainable food to everyone, without jacking up the price for the people who can least afford it. So, what does a real path forward actually look like? Well, the EAT-Lancet Commission lays out a pretty clear menu for how we can reform the system. The main strategy here is a total flip in our thinking. Instead of trying to convince people to change their diets when they're surrounded by unhealthy options, the focus has to be on fixing the supply side first. The idea is to completely reshape the system so that the healthy, sustainable choice becomes the easy and the affordable choice for everybody. So this recipe for reform has a few key ingredients. First, governments need to use their own buying power to create demand for more diverse, healthier foods. Then, use smart financial policies like subsidies to make those good foods cheaper. It also means setting hard limits on pollution and investing in green infrastructure like clean cold storage. And, maybe most importantly, making sure that farmers, workers, and consumers all get a seat at the table to help shape these big changes.
When you boil it all down, the goal is actually really simple, but also incredibly powerful. We need to make meals that are affordable, that are culturally familiar, and that are good for both us and the planet, the new normal. For everyone.
Look, this transition is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and it leaves us with a really vital question we need to think about. As we redesign the very system that feeds all of us, how do we make absolutely sure that fairness and justice aren't just extra ingredients, but the foundation of the entire meal?